Alright guys, so this is my floor. As you can see, it's pretty much finished. There's some little bits to do, some extra bits, extra sealant to put around the edges where you can see the tripods there, but it's basically finished. As you can see, I've got the sill there. I've got some bits of tape that I'm still going to remove from the time I taped it down. There's a sill on the other side as well. And yeah, it's pretty successful. I will say that the floor is massively important. Probably seems obvious, but it is, just because it immediately makes the van much more comfortable to be in all of a sudden. You know, it's the one part of you that's always in contact with the van when you're inside, obviously, and you know, it suddenly becomes more comfortable to walk in, suddenly less cold on your feet, everything just seems much nicer. So yeah, it's important to get done right, and I'll just step you through the process I went through to get my floor done. This is the insulation boards that I bought. It's Celotex 25mm thick insulation board that you can get off eBay, and yeah, it's just kind of standard Celotex insulation, and I'm using the plywood flooring that I got with my van as a stencil to basically cut this stuff into shape before installing it into the van. So yeah, so now I'm installing the insulation on the floor here. I'll glue it down, and as you can see, just cut it into pieces. I basically kind of just worked out where everything was going to go, more or less, and just figured out how much. I just measured up the pieces that I need to cut, and I only needed, for this medium wheelbase Sprinter, I only needed 2 of those Celotex boards, which were 2.4 meters by 1.2 meters. So this times 3, because they're cut in thirds. So it's quite big, and I only need 2 of those to cover the floor. And so yeah, here I'm starting, and I'm going to glue it down with this, some Siklex 221. I used, this is the rest of the other pieces here. You can see the original flooring here that I'm going to use to put down on top of it, but here are the pieces, and I kind of just measured up what I needed and put together a kind of stencil to cut out the pieces, you know, for it to go around the wheel arches and everything else. And yeah, alright, as you can see, I've got the floor down. It's very heavy, so I couldn't film it at the same time. As you can see, the holes are there lined up, so I can put the bolts in, which are here. Remember where they will go. I'll be doing that now. But yeah, it's kind of dirty, so I might have to clean it, but this is it basically. So I had to buy some extra bolts, some new bolts, to fit the handles of the plywood, or these things on the plywood, because there was insulation, 25mm thick insulation that I installed underneath, so the original bolts wouldn't fit. This is 55mm bolt, which I use for these types of handles here, and this is 65mm, which I'll use for these smaller ones, of which there are 4. And I think there are 5 of these types here. So I'm going to do that now. I've been doing some caulking on the edge after putting down the flooring and putting the bolts in and everything. I wanted to kind of get the edge filled in with some caulk, and so I used some expanding foam, which I'll show you now. Gap filling foam. It's kind of a wood filler or gap filling, gap filler. I'll just show you that. Does it get into focus? Yeah, gap filling, expanding foam, which I bought online. Some left. It went through. It was a 750ml can, and went around the whole van, or the whole inside of the van. And you know, you just put it. You just kind of. Is to obviously level the floor right up to the edge, so that when I put the plastic flooring on or glue it down, it's fully level to the very edge here, and you know, you don't have a big gap there, and obviously it helps against like leaks and water and stuff. But yeah, essentially it expands, and so you have to cut it off, or cut off the the excess here that kind of expands and dries, and I've been doing it with a knife. I haven't been doing a very tidy job with it, but I don't think I need to do a very tidy job. If I can just get this off. Like that. Alright, so if you ignore the clutter here, and I just at the moment I'm putting the sill on the end of my flooring here, and I've just got to clear up the dirt first, and then after that stick this on. Maybe I slice the insulation a bit so I can stick this on like so. Should fit. Oh no, it's the wrong way around. Oop. So it goes like that, more or less, and drill in the correct place. I'll have to triangulate the spot where the holes are on the flooring here with a right angle type ruler, and then attach it with the screws here. So these are the original screws, self-tapping screws that went into the floor when I used when I took off the original flooring, the original sill here, as you can see. And I've put this new one here, and yeah, just lined up the holes, and I used the same old screws to tie it back in, and it seems to be working. It's not quite flush, but it's decent enough, I think. The only trick I think is to get the right measurement. I'll have to remove this again to place the actual flooring, the vinyl that I bought. I have to glue that down and then put it under the sill as well and everything, so I have to remove it, but you know, so far so good. Yeah. Alright, so I've just been measuring up the side step section for the second bit of sill I'm installing. There's a bit of curve here that I've got to watch out for in here. But yeah, I'm going to use a mitre saw to make sure I can cut a mitre here, so that I can have like a nice joint for both sills here and here. I'm going to do that now. Alright guys, so here's my mitre saw set up with the sill. This is for the long bit on the side door, and also used a right angle ruler like this to just draw a straight line here, and then draw a 45-degree angle here, and that's it. And I've set it up to 45 degrees, and all I need to do is to cut it, and should be good to go. Just to show you guys, there's the mitre cut I did, and now as you can see I'm doing the holes here, and I'm countersinking them. I've drilled the holes about 20 centimeters apart, try to make it even with the other bit that I'm going to stick on as well. Yeah, I think it's a 4.5mm drill I'm using, and I'm just going to use these focus on that, just these screws here. Can't remember what size they are. They're just typical kind of wood screws, I think. And they fit, and I used a larger drill, the largest I can find, to countersink it. You can see this is the here's the mitre, or the sill installed with the mitre here, and also with the mitre saw you need to cut a 12 by 1.5 centimeter cut here so that it fits. Okay, so the next stage is to put some vinyl flooring down. I've already put the plywood down, so I can't really use that as a stencil, so I decided to use some paper, and I've just taped it down. I'm going to use this as a stencil to put the vinyl on. So yeah. Alright, the next stage is pretty tricky, since you need a room or space big enough to put the stencil down and your flooring down, or your vinyl down. I put it face down, as you can see, with the dotted lines that you can use to measure, and then I put my stencil face down on top, so So hopefully there's no mistakes, and I cut round it, or measure up and cut round it, and it should fit. And just to say, I also taped it down so that it wouldn't move whilst I was, moving it around, standing on it, etc. So as you can see, I have to give myself a bit of a waist line because wasn't wholly accurate with my stencil. So I just basically put it up to the edge here because this line, this cut here was straight. I knew that much because it came this way. And then I just gave myself a bit of waist and drew a red line all around. Hopefully that'll work. Alright, so I've just put the floor down. There it is. It's there's a little bit of waste, if you can just see that, getting that focus. Bit of extra that I left on, which I'm going to have to trim somehow. Which is a bit of a problem, to be honest. I guess I'll take a ruler and a box cutter. I'll trim it where I need to. Yeah, I'll see how it goes. Alright, so I'm in the process of gluing the floor down with this, which I just bought recently after trying. It's basically a impact glue spray on. After I tried this stuff first, and it was an absolute disaster. I put way too much on, and yeah, I just kind of slapped it on with this, and yeah, it was a complete disaster. So I had to scrape it all off and start again. And I'm going to go with this now. So yeah, I don't know if that's any kind of anything useful in terms of information, but yeah, I recommend just going for the impact stuff. I'll show you if it works for me in any case. Alright, so as you can see, I've got everything masked up. Ooh, if you can just see that around the edges, because I'm going to spray this spray on adhesive. Yeah, so I'm about to do that now. You can see the old glue here on top, so I hope that doesn't make it difficult to keep the thing level, or doesn't kind of just mess up the actual gluing process. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm about to do that now. Alright, for this bit, to spray on the adhesive, you have to spray it on both surfaces, on one horizontal and one vertical, right? So you do a kind of crisscross pattern, or at least not crisscross, just one horizontal, one vertical, for example. And then when you're putting it down, like I have here, you go from the middle outwards to kind of make sure there aren't any bubbles. And it's better if you get a bit of help like I did, but yeah, that's basically the way you do it. And it's not too difficult, just make sure you go from the inward, you kind of sweep in from inside towards the outside to make sure that it's properly stuck down, or at least to make sure it looks good. And that's basically it. Also make sure there are no kind of dust specks and stuff, and sweep it all well beforehand, and that's all really. As you can see, I didn't completely cut it exactly to size before gluing it down. I thought I'd do that after, so I'm going to do that now. And for the trimming, it doesn't have to be too accurate, although here it's not too difficult because you're just cutting along the edge, and the edge is obviously straight. But yeah, the sill will go over this anyway, and on the edges around the wheel arch, obviously you're going to put sealant. So yeah, it's not too difficult. We don't have to be too accurate. At least I didn't. Okay, here, because I used the original plywood flooring, I don't need to, but I did. In any case, I've got the holes for where the actual whatever these are called, anchors, these go. So I hope this is the right spot. I just have to feel around for where it is, and I'm just kind of like slice it so that I can place the anchor in. Yeah, kind of slice it like a cake, right? So I can kind of place the anchor in over the material. Maybe I'll do another cut here. Another cut here. So kind of star-shaped cut. Like that, yeah. So I can put these on. try and put that in. For the ceiling, I just use my usual sealant, and yeah, it's not difficult at all. Just make sure you get a nice thick bead out, and yeah, Sikaflex 221. Alright, so as you can see, I'm putting the sills back. When I put the flooring down, obviously this goes underneath the sill now, so I have to kind of pierce the sill where the hole was. And since the original screws are too small, so they don't fit anymore, so I'm putting these new ones in, which I bought, which are the same width. And I just pierced the hole to find it, see more or less where it is, and that one's already drilled right through anyway. But I did that on the previous one, I kind of drilled it through. And then just screwing it in by hand, really. Alright, well that's the video, and I will say that the result can get dirty quite easily, but yeah, if you like the video, please like and subscribe, and cheers for watching.